So the next one, let's talk about the clonable interface. So the clonable interface actually is the clone method we define in the object class. So you can see here you have the protected, the data return type is object, so that's a clone method. So clonable interface itself doesn't really have anything, but this one will lead you to override the clone method from the object. So later when we need to override this method, don't forget your return type, they need to be object. So we will see here what the clone mean. If you want to clone something, that means you want to have exactly the same copy, right? So here we see the example. If I have a house, so this example also you can download from our demo file. So if you have a house class, this house class we will show you, this house class we will implement two interfaces. The first one is a clonable interface. So then later, of course, you can see the example about the comparable interface as well. And this house class, they have three private data. The first one is ID, the second one is area. These two, they are both primitive data type. But the third one actually is object, is the date object, when this house is built. So of course, whenever we create this house, they need to pass in the ID and area. And the date, the when built date object, they will create. They're using the current time when you call the constructor function. Okay. So the next one, I think you can review this compared to method again. Compared to earlier, we talked about the comparable interface. Because this one, they are passing the house data type is house. So that's why the parameter is house. Return type is int. So the same thing, we can compare the host object area. So we can compare two houses, are they the same or different? But when we do the clone method, you see here, that's the example for the clone method. So this one actually, the clone method, like we say, this clone method, they already declared in the object class. So on the other hand, we can just call the super.clone method. But this one here is, whenever you override your clone method, right, you need to do the clone not supported exception. Because this one is, if you don't write this one, when you implement the clonable interface, they are expecting you need to override this method. So on the other hand, if you don't override this method, the clone not supported exception, they will be override. They will be through. So here, when you call the super.clone, super.clone, actually, you will just call the clone method from the object class. They will automatically to using the equal sign to assign each data attribute. So this one, we see what happens if we will only write like this. Okay, so here, actually we have a driver program here. We can create one house, one object. You specify your one and your area. So when you create a house 2, okay, so this house 2 actually, how about I just clone from house 1? So when you clone, invoke the clone from the object, you need to be careful because earlier we show you the clone method return type is object. So that's why when you call the clone method from here, only from here, they will return an object type. But object is not a house type. So that's why your superclass is not a subclass type. So this one we do the downcasting. So that's why here you need to make sure when you do the downcasting, right, you need to explicitly to do the casting. So that's how we can create another house object. So then we assign from the house to reference. But here we only call super.clone, right? We see what really happened. The clone method in the object class actually they just copy each data field from the original object to the target object. On the other hand, they use the equal sign. Okay, so actually when we do that, what happened is after the clone, they will clone like this. Remember, here is the house 1 earlier. We create a house 1 object. In every object we create, they contain their private data. So that's why I have ID, I have area. They are all primitive data type. So that's why they have the memory location to save the value. But when to build is an object reference. So that's why this object reference will refer to another object, really object, physical object, date object. So here, when we invoke the clone method from house 1, then we assign to house 2, right? So when you have primitive data type, that's okay, because anytime when you assign a primitive data type, they will make the physical copy, right? Did you remember when you call the function, you pass in a parameter list? You pass in your parameter list. If your parameter list is a primitive data type, they will have their own location to assign. Okay, for example, we will say here. Yeah, earlier what I mean is here. You see, when you want to assign two primitive data types equal to each other, actually when you assign both of them, they need to be declared and have their physical memory location. So that's why here, you see, if you have ID 1, you have in the memory location equal to 1. So when you try to assign to another clone variable, they will have their memory location. However, now if you have the object, okay, so if we have object, even I specify circle C1, C2, but C1, C2 actually is a reference. So now here, if I do the C2 equal to the new circle, okay, I use the default constructor. So here actually is your reference, just a reference refer to another object. But now when I do the C1 equal to C2, okay, actually, did you create another object or not? No, you didn't, because C2 originally referred to an object. So now here you make this C1 refer to the same object. From beginning to the end, they only have one object. So that's the problem we have here. When we have our house, we have 3 private data. But all the primitive data types, they have their memory location. But when you have a reference, like the date object reference, using a reference, this variable refers to the object. But when we create another house object, they both have these 3 data attributes. But when you assign primitive data type, that's fine, they just copy value. But when you assign the reference, they will refer to the same date object. So this one actually is, we call, you create a shallow copy. Because this house 1 and the house 2, they both refer to a same object they're sharing. However, do you really want to have that? That means now, for example, you buy a Tesla car. But your Tesla car, you too need to share the same GPS object. So definitely cannot do that, right? So that's why we need to be careful when you override your clonable interface. When you implement the clonable interface, when you need to override your clone method, we need to make sure to make a deep copy. So on the other hand, now this way, when we do the implementation, only call super.clone is not enough. So what should we do is, we can do this way. Okay, I can still call super.clone, so I have my house clone reference. But after you have this reference, right, we need to find a way is, you see here, this one, what we need to do is, so what we need to do is here, we need to try to make a way is here this date object I need to clone. Okay, I need to call date object to clone another date object. So then I'm using this reference to refer to this new date. So this one, after we done that, right? So then we can really have a deep copy. Because one thing here is after you can clone another date object. So now we will see here. Okay, so this one. Okay, so you see here is one object. They have their date. Okay, so then here is another object. They have their date. They can really truly become two different objects. I hope my drawing is not too messy. Okay. Okay, so let me move back to here. So that's why here is we told you if in order to make your deep copy, you can call the super.clone. But when you call the super.clone, the clone method from the object class, they only using the equal sign to assign one by one. If we try to assign the reference, that means the reference both should refer to the same object. So afterward, if you have any private data in your class, they are an object. So you need to specific for this object to call the clone method. So then we assign this date object to the when to build. So then here we can make a really deep copy now. Yeah, so here actually what I want you to do is I want you to download the house.java file. How about you try to do that by yourself to modify your clone method to see how you can really make a deep copy. Okay, so I will leave this one for you to do the self-practice.